A growing number of incidents that passengers around the country getting on airplanes have seen. Let's bring in Matthew Buckley. He's a decorated Navy Top Gun graduate, FA-18 fighter pilot, former commercial airlines pilot, and the founder of No Fallen Heroes Foundation. Matt, thank you for being with us this morning. The pilots, as you heard from Patrick, say they diverted to Denver after taking off from Colorado Springs because of, quote, engine vibrations. Can you explain what that meant and why it was a red flag?
Well, let's start with this. Everything that the air crew did worked, right? Some of the other mishaps, Andrew, that you just rattled off, pretty bad pilot error. So in this case, shout out to the air crew because they got airborne out of Colorado Springs, some engine vibrations. There are some instruments in the cockpit that'll show you that as well. So what did they do? You know what, let's go ahead and divert into Denver. They diverted into Denver, as you could hear from the air traffic control tapes. They didn't declare an emergency because things just weren't that bad. They landed safely, and as you can tell, they got to taxi all the way back to the gate before something happened either with the engine or the APU based on where the fire is with the aircraft. So shout out to the air crew. Everything worked great. Looks like this case is potentially some sort of mechanical issue as opposed to pilot error.
And those vibrations, is that something that pilots are essentially taught to look out for, or is there some sort of instrument that tells you that things are off? How do you think these pilots who, as you rightly point out, acted competently and efficiently and professionally, how do you think they were able to be alerted or found out that something is amiss?
Well, it's a little bit of both. So obviously engine instruments in the front, but also feel of the airplane. American Airlines pilots and all the mainline pilots have a lot of experience, thousands of hours, particularly probably in that airframe, that 737, and you just kind of know the airplane. So when something starts sounding not right or feeling not right, you know something's wrong. And if that's actually confirmed by some instruments in the cockpit, do exactly what they did. You know what? Let's not press it. Let's go find some concrete and put it down and land safely. Real quick, before I forget, looking at that image right there, ladies and gentlemen, there is absolutely nothing in that cabin other than your life you need to leave with. Please stop grabbing backpacks and bags or any of that stuff. You are endangering other passengers' lives. It absolutely frustrates me when in a ground evacuation, whether it's Toronto or Denver, to see people acting like this. Get off the aircraft. And if you're doing that in front of me, folks, I guarantee you I'm going to be walking on your back because that is completely unsatisfactory.
And perhaps a good reminder that those exit rows are more than just extra leg room. There actually is a potential real impact you can have by sitting there and helping your fellow passengers exit these aircrafts safely. That image that we were just talking about, the engine started on fire. American Airlines said in a statement that the flight experienced an engine-related issue after taxiing to the gate. There's no immediate clarification on exactly when that plane caught fire, but why do you think that we would see that fire either in the cabin or it looks like in the engine after this emergency landing?
Now I'm going to go full speculation, right? Because this is actually the job of the NTSB, the FAA, American Airlines, Boeing. They're all going to get in a room with a whiteboard and figure it out. It could be a whole host of things. If significant vibrations kind of jar a fuel line loose, now you're dipping raw fuel into heat and you're going to get a fire. 1,000% speculation on my part. So I'm just throwing darts at the wall right there. But obviously, fuel and heat is going to result in some sort of fire. But as we heard from the air crew, they were calm, cool, collected. They followed their procedures. All of this worked, right? So this one looks like a mechanical issue and zero pilot error. So I know all these different aviation mishaps people are getting a little freaked out about. Let me remind you, sadly, 120 people on average in this country die every day in motor vehicle crashes. Thank God 120 people are not dying every day in aviation disasters. So to put it in perspective, we've had more incidents last January and February and half of March than we did this year. But with cell phone cameras and the heightened sense of awareness out of the media, I get it. If it bleeds, it leads, and this is going to make the news. But I'm old enough to remember before Al Gore invented the internet or cell phones, I would have never even heard about this, right? So this definitely is going to get people's attention, but good on the air crew and their training and American Airlines.
Yeah, and you mentioned the pilots, how they handle this so well. But how about the flight crew? You know, you don't see every day passengers hanging out on the wing of an airplane. How would you assess how they handle this situation?
Oh, they did great. We haven't seen any footage, obviously, of in the cabin, but I guarantee the cabin attendants were actually on their game. This is what they train for, right? They're not there to give you peanuts and pretzels and a Diet Coke, folks. They are there for your safety. And of course, everybody's looking at their cell phone during the safety brief, but that's the first thing they usually say is like, hey, we're here for your safety, and our secondary mission is, you know, doing some other stuff. So I guarantee you they were yelling at people to put their bags down or their stuff like that. It's whether or not the public actually listens. So I'm pretty sure these crews who are highly trained did their job. And look at the crash rescue ground crew right there. They sit there. They don't want anything to happen. These men and women who sit in those crash trucks at the end of the runway, they're waiting for something like this to happen. So as soon as the crash alarm from the tower goes off and those yellow trucks, those men and women are sprung into action. And this could have been a lot worse, but clearly they were right on the spot and extinguished that fire. But you know, in that case, and I saw some folks trying to put ladders up to the wing, that engine, folks, you can slide like a slide right down that engine and get to the ground. But I get it. Not too many people woke up yesterday morning think they were going to be standing on the wing. And let me correct you, Andrew. The last time we saw passengers standing on wings like that was the Miracle on the Hudson when Sully landed the U.S. Air flight in the Hudson. You remember that? They were all the jet was floating and they were all standing on the wing. So maybe the second time in my lifetime I've seen something like that.
All right, well, some important perspective, especially for those Americans who are heading to the airport today. Matthew Buckley, thank you so much for your expertise and for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Andrew.